Situations may be rare, but they do happen. Aim for the bear's face, hitting it with whatever you can find. Of course, if you can get your bear spray off before the attack, you'll want to do that. It's likely what saved Todd's life, at least after the first attack.
I picked myself up and said, all right, I need to go to the hospital and get some stitches. So I started down the trail, and maybe 5 minutes later, there's a stream I had to cross, and I was just about to walk across the creek, and it was pretty loud. And at the last second, I thought I heard something, started to turn, and here she was again, just 10 or 15 feet behind me and coming wide open. I didn't have time to, had bear spray in my hand, I had a pistol here, I didn't have time to use either one. She hit me from behind, knocked me right in the dirt on my face, and just curled up in a ball again, trying to protect the back of my head and my vitals. Her first bite was in my left arm, and it broke the ulna bone and ripped a bunch of tendons and muscle out. And that kind of made me wince, and I was like, made a noise, and that just turned her into a frenzy. And she just started picking me up, grabbed me by the backpack or my shoulder, picked me up, shake me like a rag doll, and then tossed me to the side. And I'd roll over here 20 feet out of the way, and I'd just roll face down again and back into that position to try to protect myself. And immediately she'd be back on top of me and biting and trashing on me again and throwing me around, and just lasted for a couple minutes. And then she kind of stopped, and maybe the eeriest part of the whole situation was I'm curled up in a ball face down, and she's got her claws pinned in my lower back and all of her weight on me, and I'm trying not to make a sound, just trying to play dead. And she's sniffing the back of my neck, and I can smell her, and I can, out of the corner of my eye, I can see her eye and her head right here at one point. And she would sniff and then kind of nip on me and bite me, and just testing to see if I was still a threat or if I was incapacitated or dead. And finally, I guess she decided I wasn't a threat anymore, and she stepped off and disappeared.
So Todd survived the first attack thanks to his bear spray, but why did the bear just leave him after the second attack? There could be multiple reasons, but the most likely would be that the bear either felt Todd was no longer a threat, or that the mama grizzly left to bring her cubs over for a feast. Grizzlies don't usually see humans as prey, so the reason for the initial attack was likely to keep her cubs safe. Once Todd started moving after the first attack was over, the grizzly, now in a heightened state of mind, likely picked up his scent or heard him nearby. So she likely came back to finish what she started.
And so I'm laying there, and my face is all bloody from this ripped open scalp and tendons sticking out of my arm, and I'm afraid to move because I don't know where she is for sure. Finally, I thought, well, if she comes back again and attacks me a third time, then I'm probably not going to survive this, so I need to get out of here. And so I slowly reached my arm up and kind of wiped the blood out of my face and my eyes and looked both directions. And I didn't see her anywhere, but my pistol was laying over there in the dirt, so it had been ripped off of my body. So I kind of dove for the pistol, hammer back, ready just in case. She was gone. So I picked everything up. This arm was useless. The tendons were tore out. My wrist was all curled over and cramped. So I tucked the pistol in my armpit, bear spray in this hand, and started hiking down the trail. Just had 4 miles to go. So after maybe 15 minutes of hiking, I was thinking about, how are the wounds? Do I need to put a tourniquet on or bandaging? Do I have severed artery or something? I'm going to bleed to death before I get to the truck. So I stopped and checked my body over, and everything looked okay. I had a lot of puncture wounds and cuts, but nothing bleeding profusely. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to bleed to death. Keep going to the truck. You need to get out of here. Get to safety.
In a perfect bear attack scenario, you'd want to have a first aid kit with you, but that's not always the case. What could you do if you were in Todd's situation, alone, without any bandages or wraps? Depending on how severely injured you are, you'd want to use a piece of your clothing, whether it be a shirt or the legs of your pants, to bandage yourself or use as a tourniquet. This will help stop or reduce your bleeding and significantly increase your chances of getting to safety. Luckily, Todd was still mobile after the attack. However, if you're too injured to move, how could you signal for help? Your cell phone is your best bet, assuming you have service. A whistle or flare could also get someone's attention. A mirror can be a good light signal, using the sun's reflection to your advantage. And if all else fails, start yelling for help.
Just had a grizzly with 2 cubs come at me from about 80 yards, and I sprayed the shit out of her with bear spray. I think I stopped one more time and just kind of checked my body, and I was very aware of what was going on around me and just making sure that I was going to get out of there alive. 4 miles later, got to the truck, and first thing I thought about was I need to put a note on the bulletin board and just let other people that might be coming up here hiking that there's an aggressive grizzly with cubs in the area. So I'm in my truck trying to get a sticky note out and a pen and trying to write a note, and just blood dripping off the end of the pen. You know, you couldn't read it. It was worthless. So I gave up on that idea. She got my head good. Took a quick video and a couple photos of my wounds and started driving down the road. I had about a 45-minute drive to get to town to the hospital. There was a sheriff's officer and a doctor and a nurse that were just standing out front there waiting for me, and I pulled up, and it's been a couple hours since the attack now, so all the wounds were, my muscles were stiff and just couldn't even reach to get my seatbelt off or to put my truck in park. So the sheriff's officer came over and opened the door and got in and got the truck in park, got my seatbelt undone, and he mentioned, he's like, I'm surprised you took the time to buckle up. And I was like, well, I just survived 2 grizzly bear attacks. I don't want to die in a car wreck because I didn't have a seatbelt on. Then I walked into the hospital, and everybody was kind of lined up along the corridor wanted to see what a bear attack victim looked like. And first thing they did is get x-rays of my arm to find out I had a broken ulna bone. And then they spent the next 7 hours doing stitches.
Todd was left with a broken forearm and went through months of physical therapy to get strength back in his left hand. Besides that, he now has a 5-inch scar on the side of his head. He was given antibiotics to prevent infection and opted not to take pain medication. We asked Todd what he thought was the most important thing to know when traveling in bear country.
Well, if you're out there in bear country or anywhere in the outdoors with wild animals, if possible, hike with 2 or more people. You just have less chance of being attacked by an animal. And if you do have an injury, you've got someone to help get you out of the woods. But otherwise, if you're out there alone, there's certain things you can do to survive or to minimize the chances of an attack. Bear spray, always have bear spray with you. If you're comfortable carrying a firearm, have that as well. And I think it's key to practice with those. You need to constantly be pulling your bear spray out of the holster, pulling the safety clip out. And even if you have an old bear spray, practice shooting it, know what it feels like. Do that over and over again until it becomes muscle memory. And then if you're in that situation where a bear is attacking you, instead of like panicking at the last second, tripping over yourself or running, you just automatically muscle memory, pull your bear spray, pull it out, you're ready to go. You didn't even think about it. And that's what happened in my situation. I didn't think about pulling my bear spray. All of a sudden I just did and had it in my hand ready to go. Had I not done that, I would have had maybe a second or 2 to try to get it all together and probably would never even have sprayed her. She would have probably attacked me before I could have got it ready. So I think that's key. Same thing with the firearm. Practice, train, know how to use it, be ready for any situation. Run it through your mind mentally too. Like if I'm out here hiking and a bear attacks me right now, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna survive? How am I gonna get out of here? All those things that just running it over and over in your head are going to help you in that kind of a situation. Another thing would be you don't always have cell service in the mountains. So I carry a PLB, personal locating beacon, and having one of those on you, it reaches satellites, and in an emergency situation where you can't hike out of the woods, you push the button and you can have search and rescue or emergency services there in no time. Another thing would be just paying attention to your awareness in the woods. When you're out there hiking, don't be looking at your feet all the time. Be looking out in front of you, around you. Know what your surroundings. You know, if there's a carcass on the side of the trail and there's a grizzly bear on it, you want to see it from a distance and get out of there. You don't want to walk up to it suddenly and be in that bear space. Look at tracks. Look at scat. You know, if you've got fresh grizzly tracks on the trail, then maybe this is a time you would leave, not hike that trail. Or bear scat, at least you know what's in the area. And also sound. You know, people wear their earbuds and their headphones all the time hiking and listening to their favorite tune, but you can't hear what's going on around you. You can't hear a bear sneaking in on you or growling at you or snapping its jaws in the brush or a mountain lion coming in behind you. So just that situational awareness when you're out there in the woods is a key to survival as well and avoiding a bad situation. Other things in surviving in the outdoors would be what's in your survival backpack. You want to have a knife, you want to have duct tape for bandaging wounds or making a splint. You need a flashlight with extra batteries. You might want to have your matches or a lighter in case you need to start a fire and you're injured out there and have to spend the night or cold conditions. Other things to do out there are to be physically and mentally prepared for being out there. I mean, the stronger you are, the more exercise you've done, the better shape you are, the easier it is to survive a bad situation or to get yourself out of the woods if necessary.
Couldn't have said it better myself. For Todd, this event has been a blessing in disguise. As traumatic as it was for him, if anything, it made him closer to nature.
Well, after a number of years since my attack, I don't hate bears. I still think they're very enjoyable to watch and to view and to take photos of from a distance. And, you know, I'm still out in the woods every day enjoying those situations. It hasn't scared me out of the woods. I love the outdoors. That's something I'm always going to do. You know, this bear I was in her space or close enough that she was uncomfortable. She had cubs that she was protecting, and some bears are more aggressive than others, and that's just the situation. I survived it. I got through it. I'm glad I didn't shoot her, you know, and kill her, because there had been 2 abandoned cubs. It just reminds me of, you know, being prepared and ready for whatever might happen. If it comes again, hopefully not, but I'm not going to change my life because of that one situation.
Absolutely. Truer words have never been spoken, especially if you're traveling in Alaska. For Timothy Treadwell, his up-close relationship with grizzlies turned into a death sentence.
Don't you do that.
We'll discover what happened on another episode of How to Survive.